I'm just getting some things organized before I get started. I'm recording and all sorts of good stuff. Good morning. That's just me. I did that so that when we're working, if there's something I want to share or need to share in the chat, I can do it off of this other computer, because otherwise I'm recording and sharing my screen on this main one, and I can see the chat, but I would have to bounce out of it to get to my links to share. I'm going to go ahead and set up sharing my screen. Can everybody see that this first slide, it says passion and purpose? The thumbs up. Yeah, good.
Are we going to be working in the interactive notebook while we're doing this?
Yes.
Okay.
If you can open that, or maybe you had it printed off, but you'll have the freedom where you can minimize your screen.
I was having trouble with my...
Or not your screen, but just minimizing the faces. What are we in Zoom? Zoom out. At the top, there's like some little bars. There's a short bar and a medium bar. And then there's another one that says show tiles, and it'll show all the faces. So if you have that, you can move it around, and you might experiment with that a little bit before we get going.
I'm well versed in Zoom, so.
Great. I know that Andrea is a new experimenter, so it's good for us to just kind of keep everybody going over, and we might have like 2 people, but we have 2 minutes before we get going.
I'm going to slip out for a minute and fix my printer. I've been having a little problem.
Hey, just want to say good luck today. I don't know what time your session is, but I know it's a really big deal and you've been working really hard on it. And I just wanted to say,
there's my cheerleader.
Leg, have fun, learn a lot in the process of teaching.
Yay.
Have a good one.
That's exactly right. Break a leg, learn a lot in the process of teaching. That's what we do. There's Casey coming on. Just about a minute. I'm gonna do a little mute there just to get us all started. So it's 9 o'clock and we want to honor time. And so just to get us orientated to the day, I want to take a minute to just welcome you. And I'm so excited for today. The coaching group that has put this together has worked really hard. We have over 400 participants and we're super excited to have you and to have the day. So the passion and purpose is the title of our conference, and what sparks your passion and purpose as an educator is the essential question, and it is what has sparked us to organize and put this all together. So as we go through, this is really for the day. You want to have your microphone on mute when you aren't speaking, and we'll be recording each session so that you'll be able to get those as follow-up, and we'll also make copies of the materials for you for each session. And then if you right now, I see that everyone has their first name in the upper right-hand corner. There's 3 dots. If you want to click on that, I think, Andy, just you might want to rename yourself and add your last name on there. So as you go through the day, you've got your first and last name there. You want to make sure you have a place to create. That can be paper. I have several paper things that are in front of me to assist me. And also if it's electronic and you feel comfortable with that, then that is great. An open heart and mind as you go through today helps us in learning and helps us move forward. And so that is also an invitation that we would extend to you. The essential question, like I said, is thinking about what sparks your passion and purpose as an educator, and it's passion that has led us here to do this conference. And everyone who is presenting is so excited to do that. And in the chat window, what we want to do is just a quick introduction. We're a small group this morning. Not surprised, I'm actually checking in with my colleagues who are also starting off the morning. And they're like, yeah, I've got 2 people, we've got 3. And then there's one room of like 15. And so that isn't surprising. And also Saturday at 9. I bet we peak as we're going through the day where people are like, I'm going to hit that 10 o'clock session. So that sounds good. But let's just take a second in the chat. This also just orientates you to how we're moving throughout the day. Introduce yourself. Your name is going to appear as you comment to everyone else. To you, it'll say me. But go ahead and share where you're from and what you teach. And then share a mini celebration today, either personal or professional. So a mini celebration is going to look something just like anything that you can give yourself a high five about. I'm going to give myself a high five that I am managing extra dogs. Like my son and my husband are in Vegas for fun, and an extra dog is at my house. My other son has 2 other dogs that are at my house. I have a dog and a mean cat. And I made it through the night, and I'm so glad to be here. And they all made it through the night safely as well. So in the chat, just a little bit about you, and I will do this as well. There we go. I'm going to pull up my chat. Thanks, McKenna. Oh, McKenna, that is a dear to my heart, because some of the extra dogs in my house are because my son, their lease ran out and they needed to get out, and now they're with us. So I understand the worry of that for you, and I'm really glad that you get to stay where you are, especially in Boise. It's tight.
I know our dog is happy too, because right now we are in a place with a yard as well. So we're glad to stay in a place with a yard.
Good for you. Ah, I know it's a challenge. And we've got Mary who's coming in. Do you have any other coming in the chat? There we go. Thanks, Casey. I think one thing that's a real testament to what we're doing is we're from all over the state here. Priest River. And you're going to work on your Jeep. Yay. I live in Mountain Home and I serve as a coach with the Idaho Coaching Network between Mountain Home and Burley and Haley area. So that's Region 4, kind of the middle of our state. Welcome as we are seeing people come in. I'm just making sure I have where I can see the people and see who's coming in. I am not always on this end of things. Like I usually have a co-host who's kind of managing some stuff. So you guys are going to see me doing some rocky moves, especially being by myself to get it worked out. McKenna, if I panic, I might reach out to you.
I was just going to put in the chat, if you need any help, let me know.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's how we all get by as teachers. So having shared that, and we're just going to kind of move forward. You can keep writing things in the chat and notice that I'm just going to tell you along the lines of like screen sharing and doing all of those things. I can't always attend to the chat like I would if I were facilitating with a colleague. So just know that if you private message me or if there's something in the chat, I may just not get a chance to see that, but you guys go ahead and talk to each other and back channel, and I'll attend that when I can, because there's some spots where you'll be doing some things and I'll have a chance to look around that more. So as we continue for the conference schedule this morning, you do have unique Zoom links for each session. So that nice schedule that you got in your email, make sure you use that to enter each of your sessions, but the passcode, if you're asked for a passcode, is the same for every session, ICN 2021. So I haven't been asked for a passcode yet. Have you? There are mysteries. There are mysteries to how this is going, but we're sure it's going great. And then you also have any materials for your session. Those are also linked in that web page that you probably have accessed and organized to get here. And then just a reminder of the time schedule that we have this morning, and we can keep coming back to this. I have it at the end of my slide. I could link that to you as well, but just knowing that we have breaks between, but the sessions are really nice and consistent and planned throughout the day. These are the faces of the Idaho Coaching Network. And so you probably know someone from this. Give me a thumbs up if there's someone in here who is your coach, that you've been in the Idaho Coaching Network and that you know someone. And okay, and so that's kind of cool because this is open to every teacher in the state of Idaho, and that's super exciting to know that it's not just people signing up because they know someone, they're signing up because it's a conference. This is our mission statement. The Idaho Coaching Network builds relationships with and among teachers to raise collective efficacy, increase teacher expertise and effectiveness, and build leadership skills so that all Idaho teachers and students achieve excellence in the classroom and in life. We are really, really happy with the work that we do and the teachers we work with in Idaho. There are 12 of us. You saw our pictures across the state. We have worked the last 8 years in this program. So this is specifically me. And I got to tell you, I'm usually working with a team and we like put our PD together all the time. And this is just my PD. So I'm kind of excited about that. And again, also a little nervous. Had a, my night's sleep would indicate that, but it's all great. This is me on a hike, and I also do yoga. And I was like, this picture just tells things about me. As we go, I have some other pictures that'll tell things about me. So I'm not going to spend too much time at the beginning here introducing myself, except that you say my name like Urquidi. She's taken her cat and her dog with her and her kitty. That's the phonetic spell sound. So first I have this beautiful picture of my broody son. I also should tell you that Andrea, who is in with us, is my mom. So, you know, if you can, my mom and I have gone to college together. We've mentored each other in teaching and taught in the same schools. So it's always fun to have your mom be in all the big learning with you. And my mom is a special person. So she knows what I mean when I'm talking about this boy. And you can see it in his eyes. And he asked, what's wrong with arguing? So I want to start, if you have your interactive notebook and you have this first page that has the space for writing, I'd like you to think about this question: what's wrong with arguing? How does that sit with you? Because he asked me that. He's like a 7th grader and he's like, what's wrong with arguing? I was in class and we're talking about journalism, and he was like, he wanted the yearbook to have this Apple design, you know, like iPhone, Apple. And he was arguing that point, and he liked it. He liked what it felt like. He liked getting in there, and you can see, look at him. He looks like rebel without a cause. And he kind of lives that life. He's 20. So this was a little while ago, but it really got me thinking about what is wrong with arguing and how he like thrives in it, and how it can really get under people's skin. What does it do for you? Consider what really gets under your skin when you hear this question. What do you picture? What does this feel like? So just a little bit of answering some of these questions in that spot, and writing into the session kind of gets us thinking that way. So I want to give you some time to write. Was everyone able to access that and in that spot? Good. Thank you for your signs. So just like about 30 seconds to wrap up that thought that you're kind of going through. Moving on to another way for us to kind of dig into our own thinking. This is in your interactive notebook as well. This is an opinionaire. I use these often at the beginning of opening up a topic with my students. Sometimes though, I've used it in, you know, like in a novel. I might use it throughout the unit to bring them back or bring up a new layer of what we're talking about. So a lot of power with this strategy. I'd like you to go through and just mark strongly agree, agree, or strong or disagree, or strong. I'm looking at the directions and going, I think I missed one of the sections. So there should be, oh, that's there. Strongly agree, agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. So that could be an essay, an A, a D, or an SD. And then provide some evidence or justification to support your opinion. So just think about that for a second, the statement itself, and then briefly, what makes you say so? And you don't have to fill out every one of these, and you don't have to fill them out in order. So just think about these statements. They might frame in some of your thinking about argumentation and about where I'm going with it. And just about 30 seconds to kind of finish that thought you're working on, or maybe just quick look at one more. We're just going to do a little bit of work with the annotation tool. I don't want you to be like, what? I'm not finding the things. And some of you will be like, oh, I've done this several times before. So just remembering, we've got all kinds of people in here, and sometimes it's just your version of Zoom might need to be updated. But we're going to use the annotation tool. And so on your toolbar, there's a spot for you to view options. So this is a screenshot that I took. And so you want to go to the top, and where it says annotate, you can hit view options, and it'll drop down to annotate. And then it'll give you a new toolbar, and you can choose a heart or a checkbox. When you do this, you won't, I see that McKenna's saying, I think this only works if you're sharing your screen. I think like when we've done this with participants, and so that they can do their annotation. So are you finding it? It's that view options spot at the top where it says you're viewing Rhonda Urquidi's screen. It says options. Enter full screen. So you might need to be in full screen. Nope. I think we might be in for too much time trying to figure that out. So we might use the chat because I'm gonna, if you can find it and annotate, then you can put on here like annotate. And if I had the heart, oh, I see somebody's got their writing out. So you want to choose the one that says stamp. Yep, I see some hearts. All right. So I'm going to clear it. I'm going to clear all drawings. And so let's look at just a couple of these questions so we can kind of see where you're landing. And if yours is being fussy and you're not able to quite get in that, then please enter your answer in the chat because we can see that for sure. And we've got several levels of how to participate. So let's do the first one. An argument often includes people yelling at each other. Where do you land on that? Do you think that you agree or strongly agree, disagree? An argument often includes people yelling at each other. Thank you. What do you want to say about that? We don't have a lot of us, so it's okay for you to just unmute and talk. We don't have to use just the chat, so that's a nice advantage. What makes you say so is like the justification for why you put that there. It's really hard for me because I think when people talk about it, they might agree what an argument means, and then it doesn't sound like people yelling at each other. But when we haven't talked about it, then it easily, like what we've learned about arguing, sounds like yelling at each other. What are your thoughts?
I feel like most arguments can be a lot more subtle than that. They don't necessarily have to be like a whole screaming match. They could just be two friends that are, I don't know, talking about a topic, and they might have slightly different opinions on that. So I feel like that's probably much more common of an argument than like a straight up yelling match.
Thank you. Yeah, when you say that, it feels more civil, like it's crashing, but it's not. It's tension.
And I think of moments when you might be arguing and it's very subtle like that, but then you have a moment when you're really passionate about what you're saying, so you might just get really loud for that second. You're still technically yelling, but it's not consistent throughout the whole argument, but there is still some elevated levels in it.
Choosing words like elevated levels. Let's look at another one, and this is really just getting us our juices going. Is there one that stands out to you that you're like, I would like to hear where people landed on this? Hello, Kitty. Any in particular? You can only be good at arguing if you can think fast on your feet. I'm seeing some disagrees. Strongly disagree. What makes you say so? You can, I think you're, you need to unmute.
I can only do the text. I don't know where you're getting the part.
Okay.
Oh, the stamp. The stamp.
Yep. Oh, nice.
Okay.
Sometimes it just is a little talk through.
Yes. Okay.
All right. What I would like you to do, I'm just going to move us forward because I have lots to unpack. And thank you. You do need to move yourself off the stamp and move back to the mouse, or you will be in stamp mode. Like your mouse right now is a stamp. So go back to mouse, and then we'll move forward. I still need to clear all drawings. There we go. These are the people I think about argumentation. You can see some is my crazy family that's super fun at picture time. Some are my students. Some take selfies with my phone when I am not looking. When I was thinking about all of these people, I was thinking about how and considering how we bring people in to conversations. Also, I had a really intense argument with my neighbor in our driveway. And he's a sheriff, he's a big guy, he has lots of opinions. And he was like, yeah, we even debated a little. And I was like, man, I felt like it was hard. And again, it took me back to my son, who really wanted to talk about these hard things and come to grips with it. And I think there's some personality things in there. And when I think about all the people in this picture, how do different types of personalities get invited into those conversations? And as a teacher, I really wanted to consider, how do I get that person who doesn't enjoy that feeling of, coming together and clashing swords? How does that person get to have a voice? And so that is kind of what's leading some of my question. And that's what I wanted to bring to you, just like my background of thinking and what got me to this. And I want to invite you into that place where you're thinking about, like, what brings me to this? Who do I think about when I'm thinking about argumentation, not just in my life, but in my classroom? And how do we make those conversations that allow, not just if you're a fast thinker, not just if you can talk fast, but what are some rules of engagement kind of around it, and how can we practice it and invite it into our classrooms? So this is a question that I have that I formed to think about today. How can we teach argument so that our students become more effective students and citizens? So as a mom, I was thinking about how am I growing up this one to be a more effective student and citizen, but also as a teacher, as a wife, in all those ways. I was trying to think about how we engage together. How do I walk away from the conversation with my neighbor feeling like we were effective citizens and neighbors? So this gets really big for me. It's really big. And so for you, I would also like you to think about a question. What question might you have? And if you can, you could actually use the question I have. You could use that original one, like, how do we argue? But if there's a question that you can formulate that you could write into that writing box that you're concluding there, what is it that I want to think about and that I can utilize to bring forward? So just capturing your thoughts.
Where are we putting this question? Are we putting it in the chat? Are we putting it in the interactive notebook?
Yeah, just where that writing space was. I actually, if we want to, just in the interactive notebook, we are going to look at it, the whole thing itself. And there's a specific spot to put that question. I was thinking right now, just anchor it into your writing, the writing into the day that we did. So you have a spot there. But for the agenda for today, there's a spot in the middle that says my question. And you can put that there. I'm going to ask you to transfer it there anyway. So that would be great. I did just want to sort of like have you noticed the pages of the interactive notebook? There's informational pages that I just wanted to make sure were there. There's space to collect ideas. So the collecting the big ideas or the strategies. There's a space to write down what some of those are and that you could use. There's resources that I have that we're going to keep going towards those resources, note catchers and reflection. So just noticing and kind of orientating yourself there. I will refer to the pages in order to direct your attention to those, but I just wanted you to see. On the agenda itself, if you kind of want to notice, I've got the goals for today. Consider models of argument and components for discussion. So that's going to anchor us into where we're going. And also model and explore activities and strategies that can be used in the classroom to teach argumentation. I'm going to specifically look at some visualizations and things that gets kids talking and kind of provide some of those like the rules of engagement that we were doing that allows play. So in the middle of that, it says your inquiry question. Not easy for me to say this morning. And so you can capture that there or transfer it. And I would also, having talked about our learning goals, when we're getting ready, I just want you to think about like your intention for learning today. I shared with you that I have some dog things happening out there in that part of my world. And I'm just putting a pin in that and letting it kind of be, there might be something that's on your mind that you need to do, but just settling in on an intention for learning as we move forward into this space together gives us just that breath, that moment so that we can. And there's the spot where I was asking you to transfer your question. Are we all feeling good about having kind of a question, having it anchored down? Just checking in. And so I'm just going to start by thinking about where this comes from. Our Idaho content standards, our college and career ready anchor standards for writing are one of the first places why we consider argumentation. And as you know, those anchor standards are pulled all the way down through kindergarten. And so I just have some different spots. I wanted to bring that forward, produce clear and coherent writing, which the development organization style are appropriate to task, purpose, and audience. So our goal is to get conversations to the writing. In order to get the writing, we need to practice. We need to do things orally and then take them to that written format. What I love about the anchor standards or the standards period is that they've got the speaking and listening standards that not only give students and us practice orally, but also that does scaffold towards writing. So we just always want to keep in mind that those are working together. That was me, synergistically, using hand motions in Zoom. But also like in math. So it's in particular in the elementary classroom or in math classroom, we're thinking about justifying conclusions, communicating them to others, responding to the argument of others. We're really thinking about logical design. So we just want to keep that in mind. So one of the first things I want us to consider is arguments and images. This is a classroom strategy. I have this little chicken who is leading our way, helping us see classroom connections. We're going to use images to practice argumentation and also some linguistic frames to help talk about the argument. So consider using images to scaffold to inferences from text, and that's what this is going to lead us into. One thing I want us to think about, and I made a page for this in your interactive notebook, are the 5 kinds of composing. And I got this from the work from Michael Smith, Jeff Wilhelm, and James Fredrickson, professors at BSU and also friends of mine. But these, this is in your interactive notebook so that you can refer back to it. But the composing to practice is something we need to be practicing. And if you're thinking about then you start planning what you're writing, but this practice piece is so often left out of the work that we do in our classrooms. And we can think about, these ways to get there. Like you want to do oral before you do written, like turn and talk to your neighbor before you start asking students to write about it. Scaffolded work towards independent, do something social together before independent, short pieces before long, immediate, things that are familiar and immediate before going to abstract and imagined. So just with keeping these composing to practice scaffolds in mind, we're going to move forward into practicing with visuals. This is all of in the book, you go through, there are 5 different types of composing, and you get to the place where you're thinking about how this transfers to other places in my life. So it's pretty beautiful on writing. We're just really thinking about that one component. This is also a page in your interactive notebook. I use this with all ages, college classes, 11th graders, 9th graders, kiddos, little ones. So the argument being made by this image is, and that becomes the claim. What makes you say so is the magic question. It's the first magic question. It opens people up so that they're thinking about like what data is telling them that they think so. I think this because, or my evidence is, and so these are the linguistic frameworks that we want to work with. And you can see the arrows that I have there correspond to the interactive notebook, goes out of the slide deck, and you can see there's a claim, there's data. And then the second magic question is, so what? So what? Explaining why the data is important is essential. That's the explanation if we're thinking about argumentation, and being able to explain why the data connects to the claim that has been made is our goal of what we're going for. So we're going to work with these a little bit, and here's a practice. We're going to infer from clues in their faces and from the text. So as we go through, this is a great way to introduce argumentation, and especially with youngers. What makes you say so? What are the clues the artist has left you? And so what? So we're going to be thinking about those things. So let's make a claim, and you can put this into the chat, or you can actually just say it out loud, small group. What emotion are you seeing here? Straightforward, right? What emotion are you seeing here?
He looks sad.
He looks sad. What makes you say so?
You can see the corner of his lips turning down into a frown.
Aw, yeah, that is a piece.
I initially thought sad, but then I went with discouraged because it reminded me of a kid I worked with yesterday.
And so what about that? Tell me more about that.
About discouraged?
Mm-hmm. And why does the kid you worked with yesterday, why does that tell you that it's discouraged?
Well, what happened was we had a sub in his room that was very shaming. And he wanted to leave. He's recently rejoined school from being online, and he was like, I just want to go back online. I don't like it here. Nobody likes me. And I just pulled him into our title area and got him calmed down and played board games with him.
So this
board games.
This face looked like that boy.
Yeah,
in that
definitely.
Moment where, and that's the situation, the scenario that explains why he was discouraged.
Yes.
Thank you. And his mouth being curved down could also be sad. So discouraged is a type of sad even. Thank you. Let's look at this. This one says shy. Faces are hard. How about this face? What emotion do you see?
I think he looks kind of bored.
What makes you say so?
There's just like not a lot there, and you see that face all the time in the afternoon with the kids. They're like, okay, do we really have to do this? And they kind of got the eyebrows up and their eyes half closed because they're just kind of zoning out.
Yeah, I like how you pointed to the specific, like, here's these eyebrows and these eyes half closed. Like artists a lot of times leave those messages. And then you related it to, this is sometimes the face that I see from kids in the afternoon when they're struggling. So we're thinking about pulling out those discussions. So, and I want to go back just to hair and go, even though this one was shy, the data that we talked about supports the face, doesn't it? So I would be like, nope, you're not wrong. You're not wrong that it's not shy, because this supports the data that you have supports that face. and your explanation supports it. So we can continue that conversation. It can be more than one, that one in particular. We're going to look at, there's a bunch of faces in this. We're going to look at this little story. This is a great way to start showing like inferences and getting kids to see, to understand what's being inferred. Barney was starting to sweat. Susie was just about done with her poem, and it would be his turn next. He and his mom had practiced his poem 100 times, and he reminded himself that it didn't help. Susie finished, and everyone clapped. Barney, your turn, Mrs. Ingersoll said. Barney's legs shook as they carried him to the front of the room. What's Barney feeling?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. What words help you know that? What makes you say so?
Legs shook, and he's trying to remember the poem, but it didn't help. So he's having anxiety. And she's sweating.
Sweating too, yeah.
And why do those words matter? Why do those words tell you anxiety?
Well, that's what happens when you do have anxiety, is that you sweat and your feet shake. You have a body reaction to the pressure that's being put on you.
Nice. Okay, so that piece right there, that explanation seems a little bit redundant, right? Did you seem like, Rhonda, you're asking me a thing that seems kind of obvious, but when we're in argumentation, that piece that we draw it out, that we explain where that is, that's definitely what we need. Okay. There's anxious. So I'm gonna, there's some more on these and you'll get, look at, there's angry, here's another story. I'm not gonna do all of those because I want you to have some other types of practices. So here are questions. There are 2 dentists. Which do you choose? What makes you say so? And so what? So which one do you choose? Yeah, I think you're just gonna have to explain to me which one. I don't have a way to mark it. You can annotate.
I would pick the one on the left, or the one on the right, excuse me, because it looks like he has nice teeth. Whereas the one on the left, his teeth are not as nice, which makes me think, oh, you're a dentist and you're not taking care of your own teeth. Why should I trust you with my teeth?
Okay, I like how you named. Now notice what I'm doing as the teacher. Like I didn't say you're right or you're wrong or here's what I think. I'm saying here's the move that you made that I appreciate. You named which one that made a claim, and then you said the reason why, and then explained it because this makes me think. This example shows me. So all of those moves were there. Does anyone think anything different?
I mean, I would agree with that, but I can make the counter argument. Well, maybe I'd go with the guy on the right because I grew up with a father that was a mechanic, and every car he worked on was in top shape. Our personal cars weren't because we spent so much time working in other people's cars, but we knew mechanically it was okay long enough to make it so we can help our next customer. So you could make that argument for this guy's teeth. He works so much to make sure other people's teeth are there that he just hasn't had the time for himself.
Casey, I would agree with that. Also, do you think he really worked on his own teeth? Like he probably went to a good dentist, but that being said, I'd much rather look at that face when I'm laying at the chair than the other one.
That's a fair point.
All right. So thanks for thinking about the counter argument or the other perspective or what that could look like. And just opening that up to multiple ways to looking at one thing. That's our composing to practice, to continually pull that out. I would like you to go in your agenda. There's a couple links that are in the agenda. It's just going to take a minute or two, but I want you to notice one says argument, persuasion, and propaganda chart. And the other says Appendix A on text types. The Appendix A1 is a little bit longer. Argument, persuasion, and propaganda chart is really an at a glance at a chart. I just want you to think about how these, like what we're doing and what we've practiced, as well as these documents, how can they sort of like further your definition about argument and argumentation? If I were in class, I might have like a note catcher where kids are pulling things out or keeping track of their thinking as we go, but we're just going to notice it as we move through the time. Notice the highlighting on Appendix A on the text types. I went through and highlighted key pieces that serve us in argumentation. So if you keep these, keep them, just keep them handy, refer back, consider how it adds into what you're thinking. This does help us, give us guidance in what we're teaching and what we want to help kids key into. One thing that sticks out to me based on our discussion this morning is the texts that blend types. And I have that highlighted in Appendix A. I really appreciate that, like Mary brought up the story of the boy that she saw his face and he was discouraged, and had the story helped explain the data. And we can have narratives that are blended into arguments. We can have those types of evidence come forward, and we're going to think about the different types of evidence, but that's interesting to think about the text type. Like we did that in our practice. It can be personal experience that actually helps drive it. I was in a recent discussion with legislators over our standards. Yep, I got to do that. It's not fun, but it was important because we had to say, evidence does not mean it's your story. Like for that, making a decision about what standards we're using in education needs to come from a research-based place of evidence and practice. And, we have legislators who are saying, my grandkids, a teacher I know, a substitute told me, and that isn't okay to bring up as evidence for change. So we had a really frank discussion about that, and I'm not sure I changed anyone's mind, but I think that's important for us to be teaching our students. Is there anything else that sticks out to you like that? Brought you pause, or just maybe furthered your definition?
I like the section that's highlighted. Argument is the soul of education because argument forces a writer to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of multiple perspectives. That really stood out to me.
Thank you. It is hard to look at multiple perspectives.
It just kind of makes me think about my students, because like we were doing a persuasive writing essay this last week, and I had one student in particular that could not come up with whatever he wanted to write about. I'm like, well, I had them just pick a school rule that they wanted to argue about. So it was their opinion, like how they wanted to change it. And he knew the structure of the essay. I knew he could get that, but he just honestly did not know how to say his own thoughts. He's like, well, I don't know. Can you just tell me what to write? He didn't know how to safely like explain his own thoughts out loud. And I apologize about my dogs in the background there. They're a little rambunctious this morning, but I just trying to teach them a way that they can safely convey their thoughts without just trying to steal them from someone else's as well. Was interesting to see that he knew he could like verbally tell me, but writing it down, he couldn't say the same things. Just even though he knows what they are, he's too afraid to tell them.
That's powerful. Actually, also, you just said something like he could tell me and couldn't write it. So there's a place where you can think about a scaffold. Maybe there's some bullets or some sticky notes lined out, or there's some spots in there. But I love how you recognize that. And also, it is like writing is actually creating something of nothing. Like coming up with your own thoughts and ideas is a very creative process. And and what do you think? Like that's a hard question by itself. Yeah.
I feel like so many kids, they just wait for us to tell them the answer, that it really is difficult when we're trying to have them come up with their own claims. And I always tell them, what's your evidence? What's your evidence? Where can you find this in the text to support your answer? And they get so frustrated with me because they're always telling me, why can't you just tell me? But it's teaching those critical thinking skills, which is difficult.
Good job. I'm going to just celebrate that with you, because you want your students to be like, oh, I would ask you, except I know you're just going to say, well, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts? She never just tells me. I also have been, like hung up to burn because I don't just tell them. But I mean, there's, not that I don't help them, but yeah, I hear you there. And then I just think that some of the things that made that more powerful and helping them find their voices were some of these games. So let's look at here's another one, and we're not going to go through it. I just want to show you. So which beautician do you choose? You can just set up these scenarios so that they're thinking about that and kind of gaming it, and then move it into some written prompts, maybe that they're bulleting or journaling, or it could be a start your day kind of thing. They can get more sophisticated, like this is an old commercial. Look, it's 3G coverage, but that could be. But they still have this. I just saw the other day like a commercial that had the same things of showing the coverage, just with like 5G. Talking about like what is it that this commercial is telling you and selling you? What's their argument here? Here's another one. What's the argument, and what is their claim that they're making? This one in particular, sometimes it's easy to land on what side of this it's on, and pulling out like, what is the claim that's being made here? What's your evidence? How do you know? So a lot of these things, you're not having them come up with their topic, but you're making them grapple with a topic and how do they say it and how do they pull out the evidence. And that is some scaffolding. We're going to look at a little bit of filling in the philosophies. These two just always have so much so much enlightenment. I'm right, period, end of discussion. There, everybody's happy. Okay, so these are a couple of models. Toolman is a model that's heavily used, and Rogerian is one that I think should be also embraced. So just in thinking of when these came out, who these two people are, this is also an interactive notebook. Like I tried to capture these so you wouldn't feel like you need to be writing this stuff down and saving it. So on page 10, that's there. And then also on 11 and 12, we've got a couple different arguments that are written out, one according to what Toolman would do and one according to Rogerian. But I'm also going to just have you watch really quickly a little video that helps us understand these two. I kind of love this. I shared it in my class but first we were like, okay, understanding that Toolman is saying to win your argument, you use logic. right? So here's my claim, here's my data that supports it, and this is why it's true. I recognize what you're saying, but this is why you're wrong. I will kind of like kill you with my logic. And Rogerian argumentation is more like, let's find a shared understanding and move forward together. So I think that there can be kind of a combination, and I think they're both worth considering, especially in conversations that we have. To make them both go back to back, here's Grover versus Cookie Monster, and I am gonna kind of whiz through these. Like so this is a nice example of evidence warrant backing rebuttal qualifier. Like this is the Toolman argument. The debaters at Mountain Home High have this down. They will kill you with their logic. At least when I was there, I think they actually have a new debate coach, so it could not be quite the same. But when I had those kids in my class, I had to actually say, okay, we're doing panel, and they would switch. They would be like, oh, panel, because panel turns more into this sort of groovy, let's have a discussion. And what I hear you saying is, and looking to listen to each other and find common ground and build on it. And I was like, aha, that then they could have discussions with their peers and they could talk about hard topics. So I think this is important to recognize. And here's a model. Let's see, that's the types of evidence, but I want to show you this very quick, this little video of Rogerian argumentation. If this just lets me click out of it. It did not. I'm getting clunky. I'm going to do a quick workaround. I'm doing fancy things in the chat to get to my video. Here we go. Everybody hear it okay?
I don't hear any sound.
Okay.
You may have to do the reshare and then click, make sure you have the button that says share sound clicked.
Okay. I'm going to, because I think this might be quicker, I'm going to have you just mute if everybody's muted, and just have you just watch it. I'm going to put this in the chat. If you would just click on that and watch that little guy. Are we there? Did you complete it?
Yes.
You good, Mary? I liked sharing that with my students, especially like it's sort of important to have this claim data warrant. The warrant is the explanation, and to understand that vocabulary. And with younger students, we're saying opinion. What's your opinion? What's the data that supports that? How can you explain why that matters? And so we want to continue that, but we also want to bridge to this place where we are having conversations and listening to each other. And there are some ways we can practice that and encourage that as well. So I did include this list in your interactive notebook of the types of data or evidence that can be used and considered. You can have that in the, you might have to have some talks about that, like which types are valued more than others and how can they be triangulated? How can it be true? Like your own narrative may not be the truth according to like everyone, although it can be the truth of your narrative, but is it grounded in the truth of what happened in the moment from other perspectives? There's a lot of power in discussing that. A lot of times if I'm using literature, it'll be, coming back to those points on the page, like, well, what words did you see that told you that? Because a lot of times their inferences and things they've made or ways they've connected to the story become the evidence that they're using. And it's like, yes, but where on the page did the author say that you can bring forward? And if they can't find those words, then they realize, oh, okay, I just am using just my own narrative, my own example. So that's a really important conversation. Here is another one. If you might just tell me what you think happened here. What happened?
Looks like the man might have fallen over while trying to decorate the Christmas tree.
It does. And what makes you say so? What in there tells you?
Well, you see the other man wearing a Santa hat and pine tree that's decorated, as well as the snow outside indicates that it's winter. And most people just don't lay on the ground hugging a ladder. I mean, I know that's personal experience. Mm-hmm. Maybe in other parts, people just love their ladders so much, but not in my world.
And what else is happening in this picture? I would say that's a magic question number 3. And what else?
I would say the people that are standing around are concerned.
What makes you say so?
The expressions on their faces and that they're all looking at the man who's on the ground.
Why does that matter?
I didn't hear you. What?
Why does that matter? Why does that tell you that? You said they're concerned?
Their facial expression looked concerned, or actually the couple, the man and the woman with the man on hands on his wife or girlfriend's shoulders, they look surprised maybe. The other two to me look concerned, but they're all focused on the man on the ground.
I was drawn to that, the woman as well, like her shoulders back, like, oh, what just happened? I really saw that like shoulder thing.
Mm-hmm. But I was confused when I first looked at that. The angle doesn't seem right. If he had actually set the ladder upright to have fallen and landed like that, I almost wonder if he knocked the tree over when he was trying to set up the ladder. But that's just the way my brain was looking at the angles, and it just didn't jive with me.
Yeah, I like how you're really thinking about, you know, what things look like. If you were a detective on the scene and you came into it, you would look at angles, you would look at things to go, is there more here than just what it seems? Is there anything else that helps you draw evidence about what's going on? Is that like a little mouse at the top of the, I'm honestly asking, I don't, I thought it was a little ball, but I'm wondering if it's maybe a critter. Maybe it's a broken ball because it has the same shiny sort of spot than the rest of the trees.
The way his hand is, like he may have been reaching for that object, and he was ready to put it on top of the tree, the ladder for placing that on top of the tree. And it looks to me like the couple with his hands on her shoulders, he pulled her back so she wouldn't get hit by the tree as it fell. In an instant, it looks like they're all just in the moment of that accident.
Yes. Okay, so what I noticed, the moves that you're making that I am appreciating around argumentation is that you're drawing evidence to support your claims and looking at the picture in all these different ways about just what happened. Later on, I have some resources that have some other pictures, and some of them are like mysteries, like mystery murders, or, you know, where students are going, well, what really happened? Well, he, you know, saved that pan. He hit her in the head with it. It looks like it has something on it. Maybe it's her scalp. Sorry, that gets a little morbid, but of course kids love it. And this one is, you know, a little more innocent, just saying, you know, like what happened here with this tree, and their facial expressions, all those pieces coming into it are helping like read the scene. And but the practice of using evidence to support your conclusion is important. So this, just thinking about conversation, student must have ample opportunities. This is from our Idaho Core. Showing my cards there from the Anchor Standards. Students must have ample opportunities to take part in a variety of rich structured conversations as part of a whole class, in small groups, and with a partner. Being productive members of these conversations require that students contribute accurate, relevant information, respond to and develop what others have said, make comparisons and contrasts, and analyze and synthesize a multitude of ideas in various domains. It's important that we're cueing into and practicing. But in that standards committee that I had, we had a whole lot of discussion about specifically saying part of a whole class in small groups with a partner. We were calling that diverse, in diverse groups. And you can see the issue the legislators have just with the word diverse. So we took it out and said small groups with a partner as part of a whole class. And then someone who criticized the standard said, are you just afraid to use the word diverse? We were like, we were just being more specific. We didn't really think too much about the word or the social or ethnic makeup of the people in the group. We were just thinking about moving into these different ways of practicing, and they do need to have those. So these are some things to note about conversations. I do have this in your interactive notebook. So we're just thinking about developing the definition. To move from oral to written, we've talked about that. They need to be taught how to have conversations and discussions. Read alouds are a strong way to model fluent reading, prosody, thinking, and questioning. Note-taking and attention to data to support a claim is an important skill for kids with the ISATs, and disciplines have their own argument structures and tools for collecting evidence. So just thinking about the different ways we might use that in science versus history versus English language arts. There are some tools that can be similar and go across each of them, or they're loosely translated. Like Toolman really does kind of loosely translate well into the science as well as like the English language arts. So, but it can be nuanced. So here is one that is so much fun to do in class. And I also found these that are, they're out there all the time right now. One has to go, you pick, that's off of Facebook, and pick your lockdown house. I wouldn't use this one in particular with students, where it's giving you the options of beer and pizza, unlimited wine. But I just thought I would share that with you because, setting up scenarios like this could be a really fun way for them to think about, like, well, what makes you say so? And what's your evidence? And what does that mean? What does it matter? So I was appreciating the arguments that are going on out there regardless, and then a way to tune in and go, yeah, so let's make your argument a good one. This is one I've used in my classroom a lot. I've seen it used in detail like this. So they form an argument. They go in, they are in groups of 3 or 4 with others who have your choice. So they choose which candy bar. I literally have had the candy bars in class, so they get the candy bar itself. I also have limited them to just using the wrapper and the pertinent information that's in front of them. They couldn't like Google or reach out or find any other pieces for that argument. And then there's a point where I've seen teachers do this and do it for like a week. And then they do bring in and they research and they decide, and they together are, writing their claim and have their data to support it. They've gone really extensively, but I've also just kept it really simple. And I want to do this with you because I have a little Jamboard that just gives us a little bit of practice in going and looking at this argument. And we've done quite a bit with claim and data. And so I can show you how I might set that up virtually, but this essentially is how I'm putting that in my classroom. So we'll look at this Jamboard. Hard for me to talk and to copy paste. There we go. If you want to grab that and kind of noodle around, go to the page. First of all, there's a big piece of like letting them stake their claim, letting them like they all just chum it up and have fun. I often call this chumming the water because, you're putting in all the bits and stuff, so the sharks will come. You want your students like being in that shark mode of like, this is what I think and this is why. So on each of these, it's just, and you can drop in a notepad to think about like, here's a Kit Kat. This is the best one. Well, what makes you say so? And why does that matter? And I just made a page for each kind of candy bar. Reese's. I see you getting in there. I see a couple different people. Have you all used Jamboard before? Nice. Jamboard is through Google, so it's really user-friendly. And when you get in there and play with it, there's lots of flexibility. It's easy to set up the background, and then for them to refer, to make a comment, you go over to the side, it has a little sticky note, and if you click on the sticky note, then it leaves you a place where you can type on it. Yes. So what I'm seeing is that, like, if I'm looking on page to page, I see somebody already likes Reese's candy bar the best. The chocolate and peanut butter classic combination. You can have students do this virtually, or they could have posters throughout the room where they're in their corners. When I have it live with them, they're in corners. They often overhear each other. So like hearing like, well, what do you think other people might be saying? And so that's when things come up like, well, this one's actually healthier. And they start looking at each other's calories or the textures, and those pieces come forward, and that feels like a fun time. Also, they always want me to declare the winner, and I personally never do, because I'm like, you know, what do you have, and what are you saying, and what in the practice is it? But I know other teachers who have done a great job of declaring winners in the arguments, and they probably feel more confident than me in like judging those. It gets a little squishy for me, and I'm like, I don't really want to judge that. I just want you to play with it and practice it. I like pointing out the moves they're making. We could spend more time here, but I feel like that we're okay and that we can move forward and look at some different opportunities. Are you okay with that? Okay. One thing I want to point out is that students, of course, interacting and talking to each other, turn and talk is actually, I have some math coach friends that they specifically have chosen that as a norm for everyone who's in their program. They have to include turn and talk in all of their math work. And so I just really want to encourage you, when you get more people in the class talking to their partner, talking to their shoulder partner, if they just turn and talk to others, the more people talking and discussing, the more people are engaged in learning. So I think this is important, and we're of course limited when we're virtual, but if we can set things up like Jamboard and it can be different types of talking, then I think that helps. So I just wanted to include that, and these are both in your interactive notebooks. But also, my partner said, this one is very powerful. I did this with juniors, and I thought it was incredible, because they're not listening to hear what the other person is saying. They're listening to answer with their own thought. Yeah, McKenna's like, yep, that's what I see. But when they first need to summarize what their partner said, or they need to pull data forward that someone else has said and not their own, then it slows that down, it shifts it. And I would say it's a very Rogerian thing to be engaged in that kind of discourse. So I'm just pointing out these two strategies. And here is another one that I feel like if we don't sort of look at, it'd be hard for me to grasp this one if we didn't grapple with it. So this is a heuristic for claim writing. You want to think about like PMI is the acronym. This is something that like once I initiated it and we practiced it in class, then I could do it as a warm up once a week. So what positive or pros might follow from the claim? What negative or cons might follow from the claim? What is interesting, new, insightful? What angles might be revealed through consideration of the claim? So this is maybe something that someone may not have considered previously. So bulleted here on the side, there's all these different types of things and topics that could come up. And I just want us to grapple with the first one, that all cars should be yellow. That is the claim. That's the claim I'm making. And so you could do this in your interactive notebook. If we're thinking about what if all cars are yellow, but oh, I went too fast. I'm going to just pop out of presenting so I can take some notes, and I want you to tell me what would be the positives if all cars were yellow. And this is, when you're starting with students, this is hard to get the discussion going. They're sort of like, why would that ever even happen? But it pushes our thinking a little bit. And this practice is, leads us towards supporting and then considering the drawbacks. Can you think of anything that would be a positive if all cars were yellow?
People wouldn't have to spend money on custom paint jobs.
No, you know what? Yes, and I also think, well, I'm going to put that down. Because it's uniform. That's almost an interesting thing. Not almost, like that leads towards interesting, because like think of the economic impact. You know, just like when we give uniforms to kids in school, then they start thinking about all these other ways that they're going to like cut their hair or wear jewelry or whatever they're going to do to express themselves. So like we could tap into that marketing wise to see what we could do to like enhance the yellow on the cars. But it could really save money. I don't mean money on paint. I meant, yeah, like money on design, right?
Well, you're not changing the design, you're just keeping the color the same. So people can have cars that are way different designs.
Okay, so that would be something else that's interesting because I'm not sure how I'm phrasing it up there because it's just like if the paint is all the same, then you're saving money on custom paint designs because the paint is all the same. But you bring up something else that's interesting, like those ways of expressing themselves could be in the design of the car. Is that what you're saying? That it would be, that it could be in the design itself. Does that work? That's an interesting thing.
This might be silly, but yellow is just kind of a happy color, so it might be just nice to see all that yellow.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to write down. Happiness will rule the world.
I'm wondering if people would start decorating like with those magnetic stickers and stuff to show more diversity. And then I'm also thinking about like crime scenes, like they always describe cars like what color, and if everything's yellow, it's going to force people to pay more attention to, was it a sedan, was it an SUV, did it have 2 doors, 4 doors, that kind of stuff, were the windows tinted? Just some random thoughts I had. I'm not quite sure if they're plus or minuses, just interesting.
Yeah, I started writing that in minus. I'm like, I'm not sure it's a minus. Like the minus might be, it makes it difficult to identify by color.
And like, I just imagine going into the parking lot after getting groceries and you're like, I already have enough trouble finding my car as it is, but if everybody's car was the same color as my car, that would make it even harder.
Yes. And I'm adding on to Mary because she had difficulty by identify by color. So that's both of you because it's like in crime and in parking lots, right? To the individual and the professional officer, but also we might pay more attention to the details of the car itself because the color is one less detail. So that could be a plus. I like it. Okay. You see how we play with this plus and minus, and it gets their brains thinking. It's the exercise of the brain that's getting it there to think about these other perspectives and other sides. When you're really trying, this right now is making me think, McKenna, about what you said. If we're really trying to get kids thinking about what they think and what they want to say, this might be some scaffolding to practice.
Because I'm kind of new to teaching, this is just my 8th year, and I previously worked in marketing. I'm also thinking about like the whole rebranding of marketing of cars, like having to, shift to focusing on design instead of color, and also like companies that produce paint, would they suddenly, would there be less jobs because they're only doing yellow? Just different things I'm wondering about.
Yeah. And I think students start bringing in those, they have experiences and things they can think about. And from that list I have, it can start becoming more pertinent for them. Should all faculty and students wear mood rings? Just special training. There's lots of things that can be relevant to students, that can be funny, that can be brought into this way. So I just want to leave you as we're wrapping up with some resources. So you have this page in your interactive notebook, but these are all linked to other note takers, other places to explore things I've used with novels, but also just activities for practice. So I want to make sure that you know and that you see those are available. I just wanted to, it's 10:20, so it's time for you to start moving into your break. I have some things in your interactive notebook where you can, pull out a place to pause and reflect, and also an exit ticket so that you can just interrupt the forgetting is what I like to say. Like, what can you incorporate right away? What persisting questions will you have for your inquiry? Just some thinking. But before we leave, here's that schedule again. And I can hang out here for a break. And if you have any questions or anything like that, we can do that. But you should feel free to go to your break. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
It's nice to meet you. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Rhonda. I enjoyed your session very much, and learning more about Zoom.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and the tools. You have lots of neat tools.
Yeah, that's what sometimes just getting a chance to play with them a little bit. Just
I like all of your organizational papers too.
Nice.
Thank you.
Lots for further inquiry, right? There's so much, but we got to play. So
I see people are coming and going. I'm going to say goodbye,
okay.
But I want you to notice what's behind me. Can you see?
Is it my bag?
Your bag.
Is it? Did you replace the pocket?
It's all done.
Oh,
fun!
Amazing.
I got to show you real quick.
Okay.
Look at this. The pocket's so, I don't know if you can see it, but the pocket's on. Pocket's on.
Wow. I feel really taken care of, and I really appreciate that because I'm taking care of quite a few other people right now and dogs and all that, but now I also feel really taken care of. You've refilled me so that I can refuel and keep going.
There you go.
I would start crying, but I'm not going to because I have a date.
Okay. Bye, everyone. I'm leaving.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Do you know where to get to your next one? You're going to click on that session?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, friend.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. Katie was just in my last session.
That first one was?
Yeah. Like, I know that person.
Oh, who was? Sorry, who?
Your daughter, Katie.
Yay!
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad. That's awesome.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I'm going to transfer you to co-host. I have to make some things bigger. Oh, I also am just going to go ahead and stop sharing. Stop recording.
And do you want to turn it off live on YouTube, or do we just keep it streaming?